Can we scratch that?
Yeah, Kelly?
Can we scratch that question?
What do you mean
that
scratch it?
That wasn't on like the list of questions that you guys sent.
Well, it's about voting ID laws.
But you're asking me if an illegal alien should have the right to vote?
Yeah.
Why don't we just move on?
Yeah, I don't really want to answer that question.
You don't want to answer that? And why not?
Jesse Lee Peterson triggers this woman into a panic over this question about illegal aliens voting that has her wanting to not air her answer as Jesse Lee Peterson grills this person over voter ID, and you can clearly see she was not prepared at all for this interview with Jesse Lee Peterson. Let's get in.
There's a lot of talk about the voter ID laws.
Yes.
And we heard a lot about it in this last election.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the voter ID laws? Is there a problem with them?
Oh, absolutely. It's
And what's
abysmal.
What?
It's abysmal. And it's amazing to me that to have come so far, to be very quickly headed back to where we came from is terrifying.
When you say headed back, what do you mean?
So, I mean, to go from, the Voting Rights Act in the 60s, I have a sister, my older sister was born around that time. She'd hate me if I exposed her real age, but she was born around that time, long enough to, around then to tell me, what it was like to grow up when legislation like that was implemented. My parents, the same thing, to now think that in my lifetime, we're still fighting some of those same battles. I think that it's cowardly for, Republican state houses and all of them, all state houses who have enacted voter ID laws since 2014 have been all Republican state houses.
Right.
And I think that it's cowardly for them to preach on one hand and feel so confident that their message resonates with Black and brown communities, with marginalized communities, and then enact legislation that further suppresses their ability to align with the people who they say that they feel so confident in aligning with. I think that anytime you limit access and equity, particularly in the United States of America, I think you've got to have a moral conversation with yourself.
If I'm thinking about this correctly, voter ID laws mean that you have to show an ID in order to vote, right?
Yes.
I don't understand what's the problem with that. What's wrong with because we have so many illegals here now. We have people coming into the country who are not citizens. What's wrong with, and especially with Black people, what's the problem with showing an ID in order to vote? How is that hurting them?
So I don't have an issue with needing to verify your identification, but I would just like it to be consistent across the board. Meaning there are certain states, I believe North Carolina was one of them, where at Texas, Louisiana, I can continue going on, where they have enacted laws where only certain specific pieces of identification are allowed and will be verified. So a state issue ID will not be, but a passport will be. A student ID card from the university that you attend will not be.
Is it difficult for college kids to get a state issued ID?
It is not, it is, I mean, I think difficult, you get into a gray area, right? Like difficult.
Yeah.
Is it easily accessed? Probably not as simple. I know what it's like to be a person who owns her own business and has to go to the DMV in Los Angeles, and I know I don't go to the DMV, I know I go to AAA.
Right, I go there too.
And you go to AAA for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Because the DMV and some of those social services, it's difficult for us to get the kind of service that we need that falls in line with the things that we have to do during the day. What my point about voter ID, what makes it so abysmal, is that it's like playing a game with equity and access to our rights. Voting is a right. So to create all of these different checks, to me, when addresses and identity can be easily verified, to me is just silly.
I've noticed, and I don't know if you're a Democrat or Republican, I have to assume a Democrat since you're a liberal, right? You tend to vote Democrat. I noticed that it's the Democrats who are always complaining about the ID, voting ID issue. And yeah, it's the Democrats' ID laws, but it's the Democrats who tend to get caught voting 2 and 3 times in different states, or voting for dead people, or voting for
Who?
voting for crazy folks.
But I've never heard of those cases.
Yeah,
Could you tell me?
Ohio, I believe, one state that found a woman, or caught some woman, black woman, who had voted like 2 or 3 different times in different states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know. I haven't heard about that, but
Yeah.
the last couple cases of voter fraud that I did hear about that had to do with IDs and being registered in multiple cases were from 4 people within Trump's cabinet. So I haven't heard about any Democrats.
Yeah.
though.
Do you personally believe that a person should have to show an ID in order to vote, or should they be able to just walk in there and vote?
I think that people that you should have to verify your identity.
And how
but
would
I
you
think,
do that?
I think that's a tough question, because different states have different requirements for identification that they accept. I just don't think that government IDs should be, told. I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, relax. You want some water? Yeah.
Thank you.
That's one beauty of
I don't think. Okay, here we go. I don't think that government IDs should be disqualified. I don't think that we should try to find alternative forms of identification when we have some already that are in place.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I don't think that there should be any changes to voter identification and the system thereof, because if you look at the numbers and the statistics and the occasions where there have been voter fraud or voter issues, it has not been because people walked up and tried to vote illegally. In fact, I think there were 2 cases during the campaign cycle in Texas, both of Republicans, registered Republicans, who did go in person and got arrested for trying to vote twice. So, yeah.
There is one thing that I think is a negative image of Black Americans, and I hear it in the media a lot, especially during voting season. They say that Black people should not have to show an ID in order to vote. And they say, well, because some Blacks, they can't get down to the DMV, or they can't do this or that. And it makes Black people seem dumb and kind of lazy and out of it, to take away that responsibility. And I don't like that, because, Blacks are smart. They can take care of business. In Georgia, they were even, I believe it's Georgia, they would even go to your house and register you for an ID. What do you think about that image that they put out there about Blacks when it comes to voting? The ID, voting ID, voters ID.
Right. Well, firstly, I want to be very careful when talking about issues of equity and access, that we don't attribute false narratives to that. I think that is it true that marginalized and disenfranchised communities have difficulty adjusting their already tight schedules with all of their responsibilities to add another thing to their day, to go and, wait in line at a social service, place like the DMV.
Some cases they'll come to you.
If they can come to them, I think that that's a great thing.
Right.
But I think that we need to be careful in attributing things. Like I don't. When I hear narratives like you said, I don't attribute those to what I know to be Black America. That's not the Black America.
You
that
hear
I know.
the NAACP and others talking about Black folks, and that we shouldn't have to require them to go out and get an ID in order to vote. And so in some states they made it easier so that the folks can go to you and register you to get an ID, and yet they just seem to like that. Are you embarrassed that Blacks are presented in that way?
I'm not embarrassed because I'm not
You're
embarrassed by that. I think do I reject narratives that I feel like do not accurately depict my people? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if she rejects narratives like that, then she should have no problem going out and getting the proper identification, right? Because she was only talking about Black Americans in this retrospect. She didn't care what everybody else had to deal with. Like she was only referring to them. She never even said anything about, oh, well, other people shouldn't have to be forced to go to the DMV and no, it was only them. Like, oh, like Black Americans, they shouldn't have all this extra pile onto them. She didn't care about anybody else. Not the whites, not the Latinos, not anybody else. Like that was her only focus. So I wonder how she would feel if someone brought that up, like, oh, well, white people, they shouldn't need to show ID because they got so much on their plate and, you know, it's too much, but Black Americans could. I wonder if her answer would be very, very different. Let me know in the comments what you think, folks, and hit that like button if you're enjoying the video. Let's get back in.
I do reject those narratives. But
No, go ahead.
But I don't, you know, I think that when I hear the NAACP coming out and talking against people having to go get an additional ID, what I think they're specifically talking about are signing up for an actual ID card that is just for voting that they've created in some of these states as, again, another check, you know, or a failed check to verify people's identity. And if you don't sign up in time before the election to get this specific voter card, then you're unable to vote. And that's what I was saying, where I feel like if you already have government issued ID, that should be just as fine to verify who you are instead of having to go a third or fourth step.
Are you a Christian?
I am. Mm-hmm.
You're a Christian. Do you think illegal aliens in this country should have the right or be able to vote?
I think if they are contributing tax-paying citizens, I think that they should have an opportunity to participate in civic life and be civically engaged. I think that there should be a pathway to, you know, and you know, of course, the nuances of all that you have to kind of work out. But I do think that any contributing member of a society should have the opportunity to participate in said society.
And so you, if I'm hearing you correctly, you believe that an illegal alien who is a non-citizen and they broke the law to get here, they should have the right to vote. Are you saying that, just to be clear?
I'm saying I think that, firstly, I'd like to scratch that question. Like, I'm not really comfortable with that question, but just to understand what you're asking for, is that something we can do? Can we scratch that?
Yeah, Kelly?
Can we scratch that question?
What do you mean
that
scratch it?
That wasn't on like the list of questions that you guys sent.
Well, it's about voter ID laws.
But you're asking me if an illegal alien should have the right to vote?
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we just move on?
Yeah, I don't really want to answer that question.
You don't want to answer that? Mm-mm. And why not?
I mean, give a justification if she'd like to move on to the next question. I mean, when Kelly and I went over before this, kind of.
Is that a bad question?
It's not a bad question, but
Yeah.
I think it's complicated, and I think that, I mean, it, you know.
See why we can't just move on to the next question.
Can we just move on to the next question? Is that possible?
Okay, you don't have to answer. You want? You definitely.
Okay.
Let's see. I just lost my stuff here. I hit the wrong. So you don't want to answer that, huh?
Well, because here's the thing, right? Like, I obviously believe in a pathway to citizenship. I think that.
Right, and I understand it's a different question. I understand that.
I think the way that you're
citizenship.
asking the question, though, is what frames it odd for me. Do I believe an illegal alien should have the right to vote?
Right.
Not while they're an illegal alien, but I think that.
Actually, you answered the question already.
So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think that contributing members of society should find a way to participate in civic life. One of the things that I talk about all the time is that civic engagement. Being civically engaged does not mean that you just participate at the voting box, in the ballot box. And I think that there's opportunities for those who are undocumented in our community to participate and be civically engaged and be counted while they are on their pathway to citizenship, where they can, legally participate at the ballot box.
Okay. I do want to say, any question that you have a right not to answer a question. So you're not like you're not going to jail.
Folks, let me know what you think, but I think this woman figured out and understood what she just admitted and realized actually, like, the fact that she said that out loud and she shouldn't have, and then she tried to backtrack and change her opinion. Like, that's what I think just happened. She just inadvertently outed herself and realized, oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. Like, don't, I want to skip over this question because a lot of these people like her on the left, like, they don't care. You're illegal. You're here. Fine. That's whatever. Like there's a lot of people on that side who have no problem with that. And the way that she tried to word it, if you're a taxpayer and citizen and participate on your pathway to, so what, you can be like here forever trying to be a citizen and just get like all the same things and all the same privileges and all the same stuff, even though you are here illegally. Like, if you're here illegally, that's the problem. Like, you don't come here and just stay here illegally for 20 years waiting to be legal. No. You're committing a crime. You don't belong here. You have to go back out the front door. That's not how this works. So the idea of giving people who are here already committing a crime a way to get out of committing the crime, and then we're just going to like wash our hands of everything that just happened. This is the amnesty that the lefties were talking about. Let's just let everybody become citizens now. Like, that's exactly what she's just saying, which is just overlooking the whole problem. But folks, let me know in the comments what you thought about what Jesse Lee Peterson had to say, triggering this woman in this interview. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.